kind, etc. So you can do it in some context. You just have to be really careful while you're doing it, what purpose it serves.
So what is triangulation and why is it important?
So data triangulation and qualitative research is one of, or is like a demonstration of rigor. So it is about having those different vantage points, different ways of looking at the same data, so that you can draw it all together to form a holistic picture. So in the work that we do, for example, we can really, when we go and speak to a clinician or a trialist and say, how do you explain this trial in an interview? They would say, well, I say this, this, and this. And that gives us an indication of what they think they say. But what do they actually say is something we wouldn't know about just through interviews. So we triangulate that with the information we get from the audio recordings, which tells us what they actually say. And you have to remember the trials or over the recruiters, it's probably not running on the mind when they're trying to do this consultation to the best they can. So it's not about finding holes in it. It's about saying, well, we actually thought you might be saying this, but if you show them the recorded data and say, well, this is what it actually says, often the surprisingly discover yourself. So it's about just making it obvious to them or clear to them that's what's happening. So data triangulation helps you do that. Bringing in multiple sources of data to your sort of perspectives that you want that. From which we can just jump in.
Next question is, what are the critical parameters that are taken into consideration in the qualitative research related to RCTs? And what are the models to inform consent in the industry?
Critical parameters, that sounds very term to me. I'm not sure what they mean by the critical parameters. If you're thinking about measures of rigor, what are the key measures of rigor that we use? For example, we use very different measures of rigor compared to quantitative research, where you have internal validity, external validity, reliability, etc. We have our own. So when you're doing qualitative research, you pretty much have to take that quantitative hat off, put it down on the. So there are very different ways of doing research, so the way you evaluate them and assess them as well is very different. So the parameters that you're talking about, I think they're talking about measures of rigor. So I would say it is generally these things, it's not measures, but we look at the trustworthiness, the credibility, the dependability. Those are the kind of things that we look at in quality research.
What was the disrupt addressed during your RCT? How was a disrupt addressed during your RCT?
How is distrust addressed? Is it an RCT? Is that in relation to Strata or?
Maybe yours.
Trust, you say. How is distrust managed in yours? Well, trying to build trust in the first place so you don't get to the distrust. So like in example, I was talking about starting with the autistic population because they have a distrust with the healthcare professionals, with the research. It is taking that step back and putting the effort in to build that trust. So like I was saying, being transparent about why we're doing the research, explaining why we're doing it, being transparent about the funding, who's funding it, what we're aiming to do, what we're not aiming to do. In this case, it wasn't about curing autism, it was some people's concerns that we were talking to. So I think spending the time to understand and even understanding what those distrust issues are. So doing some, like we did pre-trial qualitative research, trying to understand what those distrust issues were to begin with, so we could then begin to address. You need to be able to understand to be able to address. Yeah. Just to add on to what Nikki's saying, distrust is a huge issue everywhere. Distrust, mistrust, however you got it, in the UK as well. So we've been trying to look at how just the way we're adapting it in the UK, did not really apply to QRI for underserved, or we have in some underserved groups, but not with the minority groups so much. And when we go to other countries, they have minority groups. So it is about how we address distrust. In our conversations, so we'll be doing some adaptation work with community groups. One of the key things that comes across is journalism. These people who are engaging with research, not with the general public, we view them in a particular way. They can smell it from a mile if they don't trust you. And they are really clear that if you are just going to tick a box, if you just hear a topic that will engage with the community, they're not going to be okay with that. We really need to give them the space to be able to
their own concerns first before we go in with what we want from them. So avoiding tokenism comes up very frequently in terms of building trust. And yes, procedure as well. So often they have, this is what we want from you, what do I get in return? And they're not always talking about financial compensation, which does play a role, but also showing that we genuinely care. One of the workshops that we did, they said, if you're working with women of childbearing age, if you're in the some post-20 services that would be of help for them, or depending on the condition or the area that you're working at, some post-20 people do relevant services, shows some kind of reciprocity, and that we get beyond just the research project.
So there's a situation that they posted in the idea of during my work as a project technical support. My work is to take healthy volunteers and the patient with alcohol dysfunction disorder from the hospital within trauma study. Oftentimes they got angry, faced with the patient during examination while asking questions. So will you please suggest me how to do it?
And this issue, patients during examination, asking questions. So this is about the volunteers probably not being happy, I suppose. And there is likely something that's happening there. I know the questions for you might want to get that keeps its duration for while you're angry, I suppose.
Yeah, speak to them. It sounds obvious here, but try to understand where they're coming from. Maybe there's some kind of misunderstanding going on. I mean, it sounds like there's some communication issue there. So, that's where you have to be qualitative researcher to be able to do that. But it helps to just take a step back and understand where these issues are coming from.
Yeah.
And address if there's any information gaps. Once you understand what the issues are, you have the ability to be able to address those gaps. Just identify them.
So depending on the questions is
Yeah. Just to very quickly add, this issue of mistrust, it's very easy to say that they don't trust us, but that mistrust often arises from very legitimate reasons that have existed, for a long time, historical reasons, currently ongoing issues. So the onus shouldn't be so much on them. It should be on us to make sure that we are building that trust.
So this question is for Dr. Sangeeta. What is the take on audiovisual constantly that ethics from an academic pride? Is it the relation or the relation?
My view is that they are very helpful, like we've been talking about. They can be very enlightening in identifying what the key issues are in that communication process, I suppose. So that's what we've been doing for a long time. UK and we've had a feasibility study in India as well, where we've been able to see that it works, it is feasible and acceptable for the existing site. So I would think it is good can do, but in terms of the context, there are other things to consider in terms of approvals, what would they do with that audio recording, what the purpose of that is, and how they analyze it and how they use it in a way that's applied in terms of providing feedback to the healthcare professionals.
Our academic researchers collaborated with hospitals and industry for clinical research.
Yes.
Most of the RCT's project proposals are about purposes on this. Okay.
For trials as such, that is something that we do, telephone consent, e-consent, all of these were not, done very much pre-pandemic, and I think the pandemic is just opening up our minds, and everything now is about access and inclusivity there as well in the UK, across the world, and these centralized trials, as we know, it's not just about participants coming to the trials, it's taking the trials to the participants, so the more we can simplify the process, the better it is. So we clearly, clearly outline all the different modalities of consent, and often we say more than one, we outline it, so that it's evidence in the site as well, and we get the prior approval, and we do something different in terms of consent, and we go back to the amendment issue.
And we can do two-stage consent, so we can get verbal consent initially, and then when the patient's had a chance to read the patient information, we get a bit more depth, then we can get written consent. And if they don't give us that written consent, then we destroy that telephone recording at that point. Yeah.
So that's in relation to the work that we do, but I'd love to know the trial itself, isn't going on with the trial itself, the consent, yeah. So I suppose at least for the trial, so it still seems to be the thing that we need the written consent, and there are, research groups working across the group spectrum, people who haven't get the custody consent, and how asking for written consent often excludes people from certain groups from taking part in research. But I'm not sure there is a clear, it still seems like it's not the often it doesn't be automated to do alongside. Within that, it also do other things to receive information, do other ways that work consent, etc. alongside the business.
Great, thank you. So I think we've run out of time, overshot by 1 minute. But thanks a lot for the session. And we understand that there are a lot of questions which have not been entirely answered and gone on to reaches, and we will get them answered by the speakers later. But yeah,